Today we need to get into a lot of Koreans saying they want Jung Kook dropped as a BTS member and what happened there. We need to get into a gay dancer of Jimin, his backup dancer, talking about Jimin's orientation, and then we have a video that people believe is Jimin's coming out from 2020. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hater or not, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, a taste spilling mug merch, and let's go. There has been a video that has been floating around online where some people were saying that Jimin came out, and not specifically in terms of orientation, but just coming out of his gender identity. People think that Jimin might be non-binary, and there's many quote-unquote pieces of evidence that would be used to support that theory. But we need to start with the fact of why this conversation is even something that matters. As of currently, we don't have too many people in the mainstream media that represent the non-binary community. However, there are no non-binary K-pop stars, and this matters because if you're someone in Korea or it's Korean and you might feel like you identify as part of the non-binary community, you might be weary to wear that title or identify into that community because you feel like no one else around you is like that. So it's always very important to see that representation in media. Hence why I think a lot of people who believe that Jimin could be non-binary are doing so or guessing or assuming, not in a negative way, but assuming because they want to feel represented in the media and they feel like Jimin is that. Now, why do they think this? Well, a little while ago, actually back in, I believe, 2020, BTS members did a performance of their song, Your Eyes Tell. This is a beautiful performance, and we were very excited to see the boys kind of perform in such a beautiful way. However, the behind-the-scenes stuff came out, and people had some comments about it. Jimin was wearing a shirt that had a non-binary reference with it saying unisex uniform. This was an interesting choice to wear, and an interesting choice for a stylist to pick for Jimin. Typically, a stylist is going to pick something that not only is on brand, but something that represents the idol quite well. So if the stylist feels like Jimin more so captivates a non-binary or gender fluid type of aesthetic, then they're typically going to go the route of trying to make that be known. A lot of people like to pin the idea of if a stylist picks out an outfit for the idol, that this is the stylist's decision and it actually has nothing to do with the boys themselves. However, the boys do have a say in what they wear and how they're represented via the stuff that they wear. We already know that the boys are extremely careful with the items that they choose to wear and what those things represent. So they're not just going to blindly wear things, as they're aware that the words on the shirt and the outfits mean something, and fans are going to screen cap it, talk about it, meme it, do all of the things. So I'm sure even if the words on the shirt are English, the boys are going to ask questions. The stylist to some degree must have felt like Jimin was that or identified as that. However, do I believe that this is a specific coming out and that he was identifying as non-binary from just this shirt or jacket? Not necessarily. I think it takes a lot more reflecting before you come to the decision as to whether you're a non-binary or not. Same goes if you're looking to transition from male to female. It's not just something that you think about overnight and then you just do tomorrow. This is like something that you would think about. So I don't know if he had a lot of thought behind this, he would just have announced it via wearing a jacket. There was also a lot of hate going on within the fandom lately, and it's very interesting. I always find it very interesting how you can love a group, but then hate like any specific member from the group. Like it's different if you just dislike someone and you're like, oh, that person maybe isn't the strongest vocalist or whatever, and you're just not a fan. But to hate a specific member is very interesting to me, given that all the members probably see each other as family, and then you're literally hating their family. But to want to see someone dead or even really go near this type of wishfulness is very sad to me. Recently, Jung Kook was posted by Calvin Klein and his newest campaign. This campaign showed him with a completely open button-down shirt, and you could see his abs very clearly. And this was very interesting because this almost felt very different from the original campaign that he shot. And this was with Jung Kook and a much shorter haircut. So it was clear that right before he enlisted, Calvin Klein called him in and they had one more shoot. And of course, this makes one of the most recent shoots that we get to see of him, and we're seeing it as he is in the military, which is very cool. And even being in the military, we are still seeing headlines being made from this photo shoot. People had a lot of things to say about this. And specifically, there were some people that were calling him slutty. There were some people that were really throwing out very bad terms against him. And I think this is interesting because I think the fandom will try anything to hurt either the fandom or the artist when they don't like the person, even though the insults that they're making aren't actually even insults. And there is a point where the insult itself is not actually very hurtful, but just the idea that you're trying to insult someone is more hurtful. Like you hate them that much that you would go out of your way. Now, let me give some backstory on what's going on. Every single time Jung Kook has a campaign or does something, there is that trend that goes viral on Twitter or X. The trend basically will say like his impact or something like that. Someone took that and flipped it on its head and basically said that what his impact is that they will never buy Calvin Klein. They went as far as to say even if they're the only person that never buys Calvin Klein, they will do that because they hate Jung Kook that much. Now, for someone who can hate someone without ever knowing that they exist, and you hate them so much to write something like this, then you probably need some mental help. And I mean that not in a way where I'm joking or even in an insulting way. I mean that genuinely that you might need some mental help, because even if you dislike someone, like let's say you just dislike Taylor Swift because you hear her a lot and you're getting an impression of her, like that she's a bad person or whatever it is, the fact of the matter is you don't know her. You have no idea who she is. You've never met her. You've never had a conversation with her. You don't know her. You cannot hate someone that you don't know. You just cannot. You don't have any information about them, nor have you met them in person. When you see someone online, you're just kind of like taking what they say online and being like, I hate all of that. But when you meet them in person and you're within their aura, their energy, everything changes. You can feel completely one way online and in a completely different way when you meet them in person. The fact that there are Koreans or netizens that are trying so hard to kind of get Jung Kook out of the group, get him reported, or want him dead, I can't explain how messed up this is. And I wish people would be more aware of their mental triggers and trauma and go get help. If you're this passionate about someone that you do not know, then you might need to get some help, because while you're doing that, Jung Kook's over there in his mansion, not even thinking about you. Well, he's not actually in his mansion now, but he has a mansion. The bottom line is the boys have always used their platform for good, and they've always been amazing with spreading kindness, good messages, and messages that tell people to love themselves. That's a message that incites hate. That's not good. Jimin is someone who has done a lot, I think, for the community. I think a lot of people look at him and, well, he could or could not be a part of the LGBT community. However, some people in that community relate to him, and that's really beautiful when you can look at someone like him who is Korean, and the people who support him may also be Korean and are part of the LGBT community. They can look at Jimin and think, well, if he's accepted, then I will be. And not only is Jimin accepted, but Jimin is also super successful. Now, we need to talk about a specific backup dancer that admitted that they were non-binary. This dancer had danced with Jimin during the Tonight Show, and for Jimin's like crazy performance, the specific dancer talked about their experience dancing with Jimin to say that Jimin was extremely accepting and welcoming and warm to everyone that was there. Now, a lot of people have some assumptions about not just this specific non-binary dancer, but apparently several people in the dance crew that Jimin was a part of for that show, and that was a part of the LGBT community. So it was interesting as people were saying that it was a topic of conversation as to why Jimin had picked that specific dance crew. However, my first question after seeing that was, how do you know that all the dancers were a part of the LGBT community? Because I'm pretty sure they were not all a part of the LGBT community. What part of them made them think that? The dance crew was all a part of that community was because that specific dance crew company had shown support to the LGBT community during the month of Pride. And that is very odd to assume that the company, which is like the dance crew agency, is an LGBT agency just because the agency supported LGBT like for a month or so. And this isn't to say that anyone who showed support to the LGBT community in the month of June or whenever Pride is like not an ally. They are, obviously. I'm just saying that it doesn't constitute that they are part of the community just because they show support. A lot of people like to use this idea that those dancers and that agency working with Jimin is his way of being exposed. Like the agency and the dancers were kind of exposing Jimin as a part of the community as well. However, what is interesting to note is that when Jimin does his song Like Crazy on Korean shows, he doesn't have a mostly LGBT crew with him. If Jimin was meant to give that message, then he would probably have that crew with him in Korea as well. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.